If you're not talking about Sudan, I don't consider you human. The RSF killed a woman, filmed her dead body, and told her dead body to get up if you can. People are being hung from trees, men are being tied and they're shot in the sand, women and babies are being raped, people are being burnt alive, hospitals are being bombed, and it's all on TikTok, it's all on Twitter, it's all on Instagram. And they're proud of it, and they post genocide like it's content, and the whole entire world just scrolls. People are surviving on animal feed. There's no more animal feed, actually. They're eating leaves, they're drinking muddy water to stay alive, and the streets are filled with dead bodies. The United Arab Emirates is funding it all, and the craziest part is everyone sees it, everyone knows about it, and no one speaks about it. So if you have a voice, use it. If you have a platform, use it. Being silent is not being neutral. There's no place for being neutral in genocide. If you're not talking about Sudan, you're part of the problem, and you're part of the silence that's killing us.
Hi lovelies, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Belinda Verse or Belinda Dirt channel. Don't forget to please subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications so that anytime I upload videos, you will be the first person to be notified. To my returning subscribers, to those people that share my videos, leave commentaries, and educate each and every one of us, you guys are the real MVP. So lovelies, I'm gonna be your today's host, and I have so many statistics to put up here, and we're gonna come out to talk about it. Alright lovelies, let's dive into today's video.
And the reason I'm not talking about Sudan is because all the same media outlets that push the propaganda against Israel, calling what they were doing a genocide, are the same media outlets and influencers, the same exact propaganda distribution network that they used before is doing this. So until I researched thoroughly and know everything on all sides, all positions, I'm not gonna call anything genocide or anything like that. Al Jazeera put this, like, Al Jazeera is one of the most biased and obvious propaganda media outlets that I have ever seen in my life. So yeah, if they're posting it and all of the influencers that Qatar and these people have bought and sold 1,000 times are posting it and they're tying it back to Israel, it's just, I'm gonna look into it, look deeper, not a sheep.
You can see the blood from space. You can see the blood from space. Half of Al-Fashir's population are kids. And as awful as the videos and stories that have come out have been, that is a fraction of what is actually going on the ground, because they are under blackout still. It's not just a matter of a city under siege. It's the fact that for 18 long months, people, kids, civilians, have been intentionally starved and under 24-hour psychological terror, because the threat of death by sexual assault, death by drone strike, hanging is constantly imminent. And it's the fact that even the people who do make it to the next town over or to the next camp are still not actually safe. And that being forced to flee from your home time and time again, on foot, to the point of exhaustion, with injuries, carrying family members if you can, it is a cruelty all of its own. And it's the fact that for those 18 long months, the international response has largely been silence. The fact that we don't truly have a death count, but we know it's tens of thousands, if not more, and it is more who have been injured or disabled. We also know that those numbers are growing by the moment. The ICC's inaction on the UAE condones this genocide.
A Dallas, US-based doctor by the name of Umar Birni was once asked if the humanitarian crisis that he's witnessed in Gaza is the worst that he's ever seen in his entire career. He paused and said, "Almost close, but I was in Sudan 3 months ago." And I know that's hard to imagine, right? It's hard to imagine what's happening in Sudan rivals in comparison to the horrors that we've been seeing coming out of Gaza. But the truth is, what's truly terrifying is that this is all happening away, almost entirely out of sight, almost away from all headlines, away from all social media, away from all of the world's consciousness. Sudan is the world's forgotten genocide. Sudan is being ripped apart. Over 30 million people need aid. Okay, 12 million people are displaced from their homes. It's the largest displacement in history on the continent. Even right now, Darfur is already in famine. On top of what's going on, entire families are eating grass and animal feed to survive. Similar to the stories that we've heard in Gaza, but on a larger scale. The violence is being led by the RSF, also known as the Rapid Support Forces. I can go into depth about who the SAF is and the RSF is, but honestly, all you need to know is that the RSF is the same militia that carried out the Darfur genocide 20 years ago.
Over 2,000 Sudanese people were massacred, slaughtered in the first 24 hours since the RSF took Al-Fashir. Among them was the youngest parliamentarian in Sudanese history, Siham Hassan. This is a woman who ran community kitchens in Al-Fashir to make sure that she fed the starving people of the city, and she was assassinated among the people that she served. 5 Sudanese Red Crescent members were killed while they were working to distribute aid nearby as well in Kordofan, and 3 more are missing. There are videos of elderly Sudanese civilians being executed in the dirt. There are videos of young Sudanese civilians being forced to dig their own graves. We are seeing videos, we are hearing news updates of atrocity after atrocity in Sudan, and the grim reality of it is that this doesn't even cover the full scope of the horror for the Sudanese people. Satellite imagery actually reveals massacre after massacre in Al-Fashir. There is so much physical evidence of mass killings. You can see on the satellite images the remnants of violent, bloody attacks. There is evidence of the RSF conducting door-to-door clearance operations. There's evidence of them hunting down and targeting people attempting to flee the city. They are slaughtering everyone. And this mass slaughter has the full support of not only the UAE, who actively funds and arms the RSF, but it has the support of the UK and the US government as well. UK-made arms and military equipment is actively being used to slaughter the Sudanese people right now. These weapons were exported from the UK to the UAE before falling in the hands of RSF militias. And the UK government knew about it. They knew about it, and they continued selling these weapons to the UAE, knowing that they would end up in the hands of RSF militias. The UK government received multiple credible warnings that these arms sales to the UAE could eventually end up in the hands of RSF militiamen in North Sudan, in the North Darfur region, despite there being an active UN Security Council embargo. And they chose to continue this sale to the UAE anyway, knowing that these weapons could be used in genocide. The presence of these weapons in North Darfur is a clear violation of the arms embargo. And while the UK violates that UN resolution, the US is actively choosing to ignore and undermine another by hosting an RSF war criminal in DC right now. Washington is currently hosting RSF commander and war criminal Elgoni Dagalo right now, the man who is responsible for the weapons procurement of the RSF. This is the very man responsible for taking the UK weapons that were sold to the UAE and then transporting them to North Darfur in order to kill and genocide Sudanese civilians. And the US is hosting him in our nation's capital. Thousands of people are dead in Sudan right now, and it's not just the fault of the RSF, it's the fault of the UAE, the UK, the US, and all complicit parties.
Sudan is way worse than what's happening in Gaza. Did you just hear what I just said? What's happening in Gaza is nothing compared to what's happening in Sudan. And I know what you're thinking to yourself, if the situation is so bad in Sudan, why don't we talk about Sudan the same way we talk about Gaza? Why isn't the media covering stories in Sudan the same way they're covering stories in Gaza? That's because what's happening in Sudan is a lot more complicated. Harder to create narratives over. And I'm going to show you this. I'm going to try and break it down. And even, trust me, if you thought the Israel-Palestine situation is hard to understand, this one is going to blow your mind. You see, since 1956, when Sudan gained its independence, they've always been struggling with instability in their region, right? Internal conflicts, civil wars, rebel groups trying to overthrow the government. But here's the thing. There was always a central government, and there was an army that tried to maintain some level of peace and order in the country. Now, please, guys, this is very important for you guys to understand. In Sudan, there were always these small little military groups that were representing their groups of people, right? And the government had to try and keep those groups in check, because those groups are obviously attempting to try and overthrow the government. Now, remember, these military groups or these rebel groups don't play by the rules. They play dirty because they don't care about human rights. And the government was struggling to keep these guys in check because they have to play by the rules. They are recognized by the international community, so they have to abide by human rights, they have to abide by international law. So they were struggling to keep these guys in check. So they came up with an idea. Why not take one of the most strongest of the military groups and then fund them to keep the other smaller military groups in check? So that's what they did. The group that they chose to fund and use was called the Janjaweed Group, but obviously they had to rename it and call it the Rapid Support Forces. So they created a unit called the Rapid Support Forces, and then they absorbed the Janjaweed Group and said, listen, we want you guys to operate under this name to try and keep all those other military groups in check. Now for some time it worked, but then eventually the Rapid Support Forces were like, listen, why do we need to take orders from the government? Why don't we take all the resources, find people we can trade with, and then we become the ruling government? And ladies and gentlemen, that is exactly what they did. The RSF managed to capture and control most of the resources in the region, and now they are on a mission to annihilate the Sudanese government and everyone that supports them. Now this is where we need to start talking about the basic makeup of the population of Sudan. You've got Arabic people that are basically a minority. Then you've got black people that are the majority in Sudan. Now you see, not all Arabic people support the RSF, but the majority, if not all, the black people in Sudan support the Sudanese government, because they know that if the Sudanese government does anything to harm them, the international community will look down on them. They will issue out sanctions. That is why the Sudanese people that are black support the government and not the RSF. Now this is where you guys are going to need to understand this. Not all Arabic people support the RSF, but majority of the black people support the Sudanese government. If not all black people support the Sudanese government. Now let's go back to what I said. The RSF are on a mission to annihilate the Sudanese government and everybody that supports them. So if everybody that supports them is black, that means the RSF 9 times out of 10 are targeting black people in Sudan. Now you're probably going to ask me, Mr. Chronic, who is funding the RSF if the RSF are against the government? Obviously the government has now cut supplies and resources to the RSF. This is where Sudan's accusations really kind of like get scary, because they are saying that the RSF are being funded by the UAE. Hence they tried to take the UAE to the ICJ. But here's the thing, the UAE did not sign the Genocide Convention. Basically the Genocide Convention kind of like mandates for countries to like play by the rules, right? You can take Israel to the ICJ because they signed the Genocide Convention. For whatever reason, they didn't sign the Genocide Convention, so now they took the case to the ICJ. The ICJ simply said, listen, the UAE didn't sign the Genocide Convention. We can't do anything. We're not saying that they haven't done anything wrong. We're saying that we cannot prosecute them because they didn't sign the Genocide Convention. And there are other players that are involved, but as it stands, I don't want to speculate. All I know is that's what happened. The Sudan government tried taking UAE to the ICJ, and it failed because the UAE did not sign the Genocide Convention. That's why the situation in Sudan is so horrible. It's different from the situation in Gaza, where we definitely know that, listen, the people of Gaza, the people of Palestine, they can understand that, listen, Israel can be held accountable. They know exactly the person that they're trying to hold accountable, and there are systems and controls that are in place to make sure that, listen, there's still some hope that Israel might be held accountable. But in the case of Sudan, they've got no one. Nothing. That is why so many Sudanese people are leaving the country. So many Sudanese people are being murdered. Over 40,000 people have lost their lives in Sudan. Majority being black people. I hate to make it about race. I hate making things about race, but when we're dealing with genocides and things of the like, we have to come to it. That's the situation that's happening in Sudan. I hope if you managed to make it so far to this video, shout out to you.
What is happening in Sudan right now should shake the entire world to its core. It's a genocide happening in real time. It's the kind of suffering that if it were happening anywhere else, the world would have been on fire. But instead, Sudan has been forgotten. The country has been deliberately starved, silenced, and cut off from the world, and the few voices trying to speak out are drowned in apathy and ignorance. Right now, as I speak, people in Sudan are being hunted down, not because of something they did, but simply because of who they are, where they are from, or which side of a map they happen to live on. The rapid support forces, the RSF, have turned entire towns into dead zones. The streets of Darfur are littered with bodies. Hospitals have been bombed. Children have been executed. Women have been violated in front of their families, and the world scroll past it like it's another piece of online noise. Let's start from the beginning. In April 2023, a brutal war broke out between the Sudanese armed forces and a paramilitary group known as the RSF. What started as a power struggle quickly turned into one of the world's most humanitarian crises. The RSF, which was originally part of Sudan's military, splintered off and began seizing cities, killing civilians, looting towns, and using terror as a weapon. 18 months later, the country is collapsing. Millions have been displaced, entire villages have been wiped off the map, and yet, because Sudan doesn't fit neatly into the geopolitical games of the power, there is barely any coverage. People aren't just dying from bullets, they are dying from starvation, they are dying from thirst, they are dying from disease. Imagine being forced to feed your children leaves from trees just to stop their hunger crisis. Imagine having to drink muddy water because there is no other option. That is not imagination, that is the reality in places like El-Fashir, Darfur, and El Jinina. And it's not just the killing, it's the humiliation, it's the psychological warfare. RSF fighters have filmed themselves laughing over the corpses of women. They have forced men to kneel before executing them. They have burned families alive in their homes. And the videos are posted proudly, not hidden, not secret, posted online as if they are trophies. The horror is broadcast in plain sight, but the silence is deafening. The blackout makes it even worse. Internet access has been cut off across vast regions. Journalists can't report, humanitarian aid can't get it. Hospitals are refusing to give out information because they fear retribution. And in these silent genocide freestyles, half of the population in some of these areas are children. Half children who have never known peace, who have only known the sound of gunfire, drones, and death. The idea that the international community knows this and still does nothing is not just shameful, it's inhuman. And let's talk about that. The silence, because silence is neutral. When you are not on the sideline, you are on the side of the oppressors. The world stayed silent during Rwanda, it stayed silent during Bosnia, and now it's staying silent again during Sudan. People say, oh, we didn't know, but this time we do know. We can see it on TikTok, on Twitter, on Instagram. People literally posting their last words before they die. Mothers recording messages saying goodbye to their children because they know they won't survive the night. And still, most people scroll past. What kind of world do we live in where genocide has to go viral before people that care? And yes, the RSF isn't acting alone. The truth is, the money and weapons that fuel these massacres are coming from outside. Report shows that the United Arab Emirates has been backing the RSF, supplying them with drones and resources under the table. And while Sudanese families bury their dead, foreign powers play politics. The International Criminal Court, the ICC, sit by silent. The United Nations releases deeply concerned statement and then goes quiet again. Concern doesn't save lives, wars doesn't stop bullets. Meanwhile, the media is busy elsewhere amplifying narratives that suit political agendas. Many of the same athletes that spent months analyzing every angle of conflict in the Europe barely spare a headline for Sudan. The same influencers and networks that rush to call out genocide in one part of the world have gone quiet here. It's as if African lives simply don't trend enough. But Sudan is not just another strategy. Sudan is a reflection of our collective failure, a test of our humanity. Because what is happening there right now is not a war, it's an extermination, it's organized ethnic cleansing. The RSF is wiping out entire communities, especially in Darfur, targeting specific ethnic groups, burning their villages to the ground, and leaving their corpses unburied as warnings to others. And in the midst of all this, ordinary people are showing extraordinary strength. Doctors operating in bomb-out clinics with no electricity, using flashlights and kitchen utilities to save lives. Volunteers risking their lives to smuggle food and medicine. Mothers hiding their children in holes in the ground when drones pass overhead. These are acts of courage that should be celebrated, yet they are in silence. The truth is, Sudan is bleeding, and the world is complete, because silence is complete complicity, because indifference is death. Every time someone scrolls past a video from Sudan and says that is too depressing, another piece of humanity dies. Every time a government looks the other way because there is no oil to gain or no ally to protect, there is no oil to gain or no ally to protect, another children starves. Every time a platform patronizes entertainment over awareness, the silence grows louder, and that silence kills. The RSF wants silence. Genocide thrives in silence. Silence is how they erase witnesses. Silence is how history gets rewritten. Silence is how the dead are forgotten. But not anymore. People are starting to speak. Hashtags are breaking through. The Sudanese activists, journalists, and survivors are risking their lives to document the horror. They are uploading videos under blackouts, using smuggle phones just to tell the world we are still here. So if you have a voice, use it. If you have a platform, use it. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to be a political. You just need to be human. Talk about Sudan. Share what is happening. Flood the silence, because the longer the world looks away, the more people die. The RSF has already wiped out entire families. People have been executed for trying to flee. Children have been taken as soldiers. Women have been enslaved. These are crimes against humanity. They are the same kinds of crimes that the world swore never again after Rwanda. And yet, here we are again. There is no exaggeration here. There is no propaganda. The evidence is overwhelming, from satellite images of burnt towns to survivor testimonies to footage of mass graves. The atrocity are documented. The crimes are real. So when you see someone saying, "I will wait to research both sides," ask yourself, what other side? What justification is there for slaughtering civilians? What arguments can excuse mass rape, starvation, and the deliberate destruction of hospitals? Neutrality in the face of genocide is cowardice. The people of Sudan are not asking for pity. They are asking for humanity. They are asking to be seen, to be heard, not to be erased. Every minute that passes, more people die. Namelessly, every hour, the silence grows thicker, and every day, we prove again that the world has learned nothing from history. But we can still choose to change that. You can still choose to speak. You can still amplify their voices, because even a whisper of truth is louder than silence. If you are human, you cannot stay silent. Not when people are being hanged from trees, not when families are eating leaves to survive, not when women are being burned alive, not when hospitals are being turned to ashes. This is not politics, this is humanity. And right now, humanity is failing Sudan. So speak, share, shout, because silence is not peace. Silence is death.
And if you watch up to this extent, don't forget to please leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. And please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We are just here for educational and informative purposes. So lovelies, why not just share your thought? Subscribe to this channel if you're yet to do that, and I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one.